Inside a secret lab, scientists realize something's wrong with our main character. This powerful S-rank chimera, known as number 17, is breaking down. He is officially considered trash. They dump him in the demon realm to protect a group of hunters, with one strict rule: never come back. Inside the realm, endless monsters swarm him. But 17 tears them apart effortlessly, keeping those hunters alive. Once the mission is over, the gate starts to shut. Just as planned, the hunters leave him behind. As his body fails, his human memories finally flood back. He was just an orphan, kidnapped and pumped with over 500 monster cells to create a monster. As his life slips away, his core triggers a massive explosion. But in a wild twist, number 17 is actually reborn. He is not a beast anymore, he is a human being once again. He stares at his hands in total shock, trying to process this miracle. He soon realizes those monster cells are still buzzing inside him. He is no ordinary human. He figures the lab has already written him off as dead. That is why no one is coming to find him. Even the experiment number on his wrist has totally vanished. He believes he was brought back to life. It was likely the power of the fire-type monsters living inside his own body. Turns out, as long as the core stays intact, this creature can revive 3 times. But they say a phoenix should not be able to fuse with human cells. This makes his situation a 1 in a million special case. He realizes that every leash the lab used to control him has been broken. Now that his life as a lab experiment is over, he decides to live as a normal person. For his new life, he picks a brand new name for himself, Sheehan Dunn. At first, Sheehan thinks about getting his revenge. But he drops it since he has no clue who to actually target. Still, he is sure he will run into those monsters who ruined him eventually. When he realizes he is standing there completely naked, he figures that finding some clothes is his first step to being human. He wanders through the demon realm until he finds a river, which seems pretty useful. Scanning the area, he spots a dead bird monster that died from some poison. He needs leather anyway, so that bird hide will have to do. He shifts his arm into a sharp blade. Using the skills he learned back in the lab, he starts skinning the bird. The second he cuts into the skin, a foul stench of poison hits the air. He does not stop, working until that dead bird is finally stripped completely bare. Now he has got a massive hide to use for clothes. But he is annoyed. The hide is stiff as a board and totally untreated. Then it hits him, he can actually tan this leather himself. He gets to work, pounding the hide until it becomes nice and soft. Sheehan is proud of his work and wastes no time cutting the hide into shape. But while he is busy, the bird suddenly twitches to life behind him. Using his bare hands, he tears the hide into the perfect shape for a caveman-style outfit. He realizes that some of the poison has not washed away. But honestly, he is too lazy to fix it and decides to just wing it. Suddenly, a chirp rings out. He turns around and realizes something totally impossible. That bird is not actually dead yet. Shan notices the bird is moving along with his voice, almost in sync. It really seems like it understands him perfectly. Sheen is shocked that the bird shows every sign of death, yet somehow, it is still clinging to life. Without overthinking it, he realizes he is looking at one of those rare immortal-type monsters. He knows that his former self would have finished the creature off without a second thought. But since it is already far too weak to move, he sees no reason to kill it. He just considers them both lucky survivors. He tells the bird to live its second life well, just as he plans to do for himself. As he walks away, Cheyenne mutters that they might eventually meet again if fate allows it. With the clothing situation handled, he decides the next big thing on his agenda is finding a home. Shin starts scanning the area around him. The first spot he finds is a cave, but it is already home to a giant centipede. No way he is living in such a dark hole, so he leaves. But before leaving, he takes the monster's head. He keeps wandering until he finally reaches the cold, snowy mountains. He runs into some ice monsters. He clears them out easily, but decides the mountains are a no-go since finding food would be hard. The search for a perfect house continues. After plenty of effort, he finally discovers a location that actually suits him. There's a clear lake here, surrounded by green plants and a circling hill. He checks the water and realizes it is filled with fish he can use for food. This place has absolutely everything a person needs for a perfect home. And just like that, Cheyenne knows he has finally found the spot for his new house. Somewhere else, a mechanical chimera has just arrived within the demon realm. Since Cheyenne is set on building at this location, he finds a plot. He picks his spot and transforms his arm into long, razor-sharp blades. With one clean swing, he is cutting timber and stacking it up. While setting the foundation, he finds the ground is bumpy, so he levels the whole area out first. Once he is done with that, he grabs the massive trees and starts driving them into the corners to act as house posts. Next, he lays the floor planks and starts working on the walls. He didn't have any nails, so he improvised using sticky slime from some snail-type monsters. Apparently, this slime is always very solid once it sets. He is not sure if it is waterproof, but for the final touches, he uses silk from silkworm larvae. Cheyenne looks at his work, feeling pretty satisfied with himself. But he notices that something still seems to be lacking. He starts thinking about what other human homes have, maybe a garden or even a pet dog. He quickly tosses the dog idea out, since raising one in the demon realm is impossible. He concludes that he is going to make a vegetable garden. But even this leaves him conflicted. He needs to find something that can actually survive and grow in the demon realm. Then it suddenly hits him, there is a snowy mountain nearby. That is where he can get a particular plant called a mandragora. Khan heads straight for the habitat of the mandragora. He enters the snowy mountains, where the demonic energy is at its thickest. Looking at the deep snow, it is hard not to remember when he was kidnapped as a kid. All right, you and I are about to see that being a chimera actually has some serious benefits. Perks of the new body: no more freezing in the snow or worrying about an empty stomach. Soon, he stumbles across a mandragora plantation. Apparently, these mandragoras are super sensitive to stress. Think of them like sunfish-type monsters. One tiny change in the environment, yeah, they just die. Since he's planning to relocate them, he decides that picking the younger, more adaptable ones is definitely the best move. Step 1, carefully start clearing away those roots. He also covers his ears. These things are famous for their ear-piercing screams when you disturb them. He yanks one out, bracing for the noise, but it's totally silent. Maybe a fluke, he pulls another one, but again, not a single sound. In fact, these mandragoras are just taking a nap. They couldn't care less. He pulls out several more, yet none of them scream like he expected. Turns out, that whole screaming thing only happens when humans grow them artificially. Since the human world has such low demonic energy, the plants stay constantly stressed, which is why they scream like crazy. If you pull them out forcefully there, they scream once and then just die. But here in the demon realm, these little guys have no reason to yell. Still, Kaon is pretty confused. Even if they're not screaming, why aren't they at least trying to run away? Suddenly, it hits him, he has mandragora cells in his body. They probably think he's just one of them. Hey, he'll take it. Makes his job a lot easier and way less stressful. Cheyenne is already dreaming of the perks, mandragora tea, and maybe even using them as a tasty snack. However, stealing their fruit by force makes it poisonous. Kayan realizes he needs to find a way to make them trust him. Just then, he spots some hunters nearby and curiosity kicks in. What are they doing out here in these incredibly dangerous, snowy mountains anyway? Meanwhile, two hunters are struggling against a pack of B-rank snow rabbits after their own teammates ditched them. They're barely hanging on behind a barrier, but that thing is seconds away from shattering. Right about now, they're seriously regretting their career choice. Why did they ever decide to become hunters? Just as they're about to be killed, something slams into the ground right in front of them out of nowhere. That definitely grabs their attention, and the rabbits' attention too. As the dust clears from the impact, they're shocked to see a figure walking calmly toward them through the haze. And yeah, it's our main character. Kayan sees the monsters are just snow bunnies. But the second those rabbits feel the aura coming off him, pure panic sets in, and they instantly vanish into thin air. The hunters are stunned, B-rank monsters, running away just by looking at this guy. They thank Kyan for the save and quickly introduce themselves to him. He does the same, but the hunters look genuinely confused. They've never heard such a strange name before. Chian asks what they're even doing in the demon realm, seeing as they're clearly low-rank hunters. The hunters admit it was all for the money. Turns out there's a mission to capture a chimera alive, and you and I both know the reward is massive. As soon as they bring up a chimera, Shin immediately goes on guard, thinking he is their target. But then, the hunters mention this chimera escaped a lab, and it is actually a mechanical-type monster. Since he is definitely not a machine, he realizes there is no reason for him to worry. His plan is simple: grab a gate crystal and head straight back to his brand new home. Shin asks the two guys where their gear went, figuring they must have some gate stones on them. That is when they reveal the traitors who turned on them stole every piece of equipment they had. Running out of time, they ask if Shin is heading back to the human world because they are at their limit. Essentially, humans can't survive the demon realm's energy for long before it turns lethal and kills them. Of course, for our main character, this energy is completely harmless. They start begging for their lives, but right then, Shin senses those backstabbing hunters nearby. He takes to the sky instantly, blasting off toward the traitor's location. Left behind, the two hunters nearly lose it when their only hope just vanishes into thin air. Somewhere else, the hunters have finally trapped the chimera and are closing in for the kill. But as they begin their final assault, the chimera snaps into battle mode, ready to tear through them without a shred of fear. Shin arrives at the scene moments later, finding nothing but pools of blood and abandoned hunter gear. He notices something strange. There is a small child's footprint right next to those beast tracks. It seems this chimera was actually shifting its form while fighting for its life. Since it is made of liquid metal, changing its shape at will is basically its specialty. Still, the materials used to build it are incredibly rare. That's why it's so small, roughly the size of a young child or a stray dog. Shin is actually impressed the little thing took down 5 B-rank hunters all on its own. Meanwhile, the two survivors are fading fast, and one of them even has a baby on the way. They're waiting for the end when Shin suddenly reappears, carrying all their stolen gear on his back. They immediately start pleading with him to save them. He almost ignores them, but then remembers they don't have any gate crystals to get home. One hunter pulls out 2 million won in cash, desperate to buy any stones he might be carrying. Clearly, they are dead meat if they don't escape this demon realm right this second. Shin is stunned by the massive pile of cash, even though money doesn't really matter to him anymore. Still, he takes the payment, thinking it might come in handy whenever he visits the human world again. He opens up a gate for them, and the hunter bows down in pure gratitude. The man promises he will never forget the mercy Shin showed them today. He grabs his exhausted partner, and they prepare to finally leave this nightmare. That's when Shin casually mentions that gate stones usually only cost 200,000. But the hunter tells him those prices are ancient history by now. When asked why he cares, Shin admits he feels a little guilty for accidentally overcharging them. To balance the scales, he decides to give them a little bonus in return. He taps the dying hunter's shoulder and floods his body with mana, leaving them both in total shock. This is a high-level technique that even a rank hunters are terrified to mess with. If those manas clash and tangle, things are going to get ugly fast. Their mana holes would literally rupture. The hunters were absolutely terrified, assuming Xian would fail and lead them all to certain death. But then, get this, he purified that demonic energy like it was nothing. The hunters hugged, sobbing with relief after literally staring death in the face. With the crisis finally over, Chan decides that it is finally time to leave. They showered him with thanks, stunned by how powerful his mana was to have easily revitalized a completely exhausted hunter. Once the hunters are gone, he returns home, satisfied with how well his little trip turned out. He notices the Mandrioras are finally awake, realizing it is high time to get them planted. He finds the perfect spot for the Mandrioras, but they seem pretty miserable there. Shin wonders what the issue is, so he tries feeding them a little manna to cheer them up. Sure enough, their mood lifts instantly, leaving Cheyenne feeling much more relieved. Meanwhile, that mechanical chimera is lurking in the bushes, even though he senses its energy. Cheyenne decides to wait and see if it actually tries to connect with him. Cheyenne steps inside and dumps out his haul from the hunters, cold hard cash included. He has got a portable burner, 8 gate stones, extra clothes, and sleeping bags. Cheyenne is stoked. This is exactly the kind of loot he needed. Best of all, there is even some ramen tucked away in there. He has not tasted ramen since those old days back at the orphanage. Since he is starving, he decides to whip up a bowl. Following the packet instructions, he grabs a pot and heads outside to fetch some water. Suddenly, a fish leaps from the water to attack him. Well, since he's going to need some extra ingredients, he smacks the fish dead and tosses it into the pot to bulk up his makeshift ramen. He adds wild eggs and some herbs for flavor, stuffing everything into the pot. All while that mechanical chimera watches from the shadows, its stomach growling. Cheyenne clicks on the gas and starts cooking his makeshift ramen. But man, the smell is so bad it almost chokes the mandrioras to death. Despite the absolutely horrific stench, the mechanical chimera is actually pretty interested. It really wants a bite. It comes up with a genius plan and transforms into a dog, knowing that humans adore dogs and feel sympathy for wounded animals. It approaches Cheyenne acting like a stray, but Cheyenne knows exactly what it really is. Cheyenne. He looks it over and realizes this mechanical chimera is still young and learning. He wonders how the thing escaped the lab and ended up here in the demon realm. Since the creature seems willing to join him, he offers it a bowl of his questionable-looking ramen. As they eat together, he is reminded of those days when he and his fellow orphans shared ramen together. After they finish, enjoying their surprisingly beautiful meal, Shin tells the chimera it can go now while he cleans up. The dog turns to leave. But as it walks away, Shin points out that it was limping on its other foot earlier. The chimera freezes, shocked that its little cover story has been blown. It quickly swaps its fake limp and keeps on moving. A bit later, he decides to give laundry a shot, unpacking the gear he took from the hunters. He realizes he can't put this off any longer because he's not exactly a caveman and can't spend the rest of his life wearing animal skins. He sets the shirt on a rock, figuring he'll just go with the flow of his instincts. Our main character sticks to the basic laundry methods he already knows from his past life. He picks up a short wooden stick and gives the shirt a light tap. But talk about bad luck, even that gentle swing completely shatters the rock and the shirt. Sean is suddenly hit with the heavy burden of being way too overpowered. Luckily, he has one spare shirt left, but while he works, he notices that mechanical chimera is still lurking. Though it's keeping its distance, the thing is constantly shifting forms to blend into its surroundings. It's literally watching his every single move. Based on everything he's seen, Shin calculates that this mechanical creature is probably no older than 5 years old. It speaks with an awkward, robotic voice, which Chan thinks is normal for young chimeras who have had too much information forced into their brains. After a massive struggle, he finally manages to finish the laundry, and it actually looks pretty decent. But there's a catch. Once it's clean, he realizes the shirt is way too small for him. Instead of tossing it, he decides to hang it on the line like a little trophy of his success. Next up on his busy schedule is checking on his precious mandriora plants. Right after he leaves that tiny shirt on the line, the mechanical chimera snatches it up, trying its best to mimic the humans it has observed. The little creature proudly decides that this shirt is finally its own. To complete the look, it transforms into a young girl with stunning long hair. Back at the farm, Cheyenne notices something is seriously wrong with the plants, and it's definitely not a good sign. The leaves are starting to wilt, and the roots are looking bone dry. He's completely confused since he was so careful about clearing every single weed from this field. Cheyenne takes a closer look, and that's when he finally discovers that a bunch of nasty parasites are living underground, sucking the life out of his plants. He blames himself for being so careless during his initial check. His mistake almost cost the life of his entire crop. Now he realizes he needs to build a massive, house-sized garden to keep them safe. Just as he's starting, the Chimera pops up out of nowhere to say hello. Kyan is stunned to see it has turned into a little girl and is actually trying to talk. She points to the structure behind him and asks if that's where he lives. Then she asks if he's a local, and as soon as Cheyenne hears that, he decides to have a little fun. He says yes and asks which tribe she belongs to. The Chimera is totally caught off guard by the question. She thinks fast and claims she's from a place far across the waterfall, way out of reach. She insists it's so far away that Shin could never possibly find it. Kyan keeps the joke going, asking if she's from the famous coconut tribe near that waterfall. Without missing a beat, she agrees, claiming she's a proud coconut tribe member. Shen then points at her outfit, mentioning that the shirt definitely belongs to him. The girl insists that anything found on her tribe's land belongs to them. Kyan decides not to argue, telling the girl that she is free to have it. When asked why she is in the area, she explains the tribe kicked her out. She begs Kyan for a place to stay, desperate for a new home. Kyan plays it cool, acting confused about her wanting to move in with him. To her, this place seems safe. He realizes she just needs a place too. Stay, but warns she has to prove her own worth first. She agrees immediately, asking for any chore he can give her. Kyan tells her he needs a hand tilling the field to build a brand new home for the Mandrayoras. She grabs the stick instantly, promising him that her strength is more than enough for the job. She immediately trashes the ground. Kyan is totally shocked. This girl isn't even trying to hide her true strength. He realizes she just isn't used to being a normal kid, so she has no clue how to behave. Then he asks for her name. Since she doesn't have a name, she decides to create a brand new one for herself. Remembering the flowers she saw before, she picks the name Kim Nari. Shin knows exactly where that name came from, but he just lets it slide. Soon, she finishes up with the garden, while Kyan sets up the stone fence. Kyan then places the Mandrayoras there, and they obviously love the new setting. Kyan notices that Kim Nari is crying, and he asks her what the problem is. Seeing the Mandrayoras, there reminds her of her old friends. Chan is shocked, as he never expected lab products to actually be social creatures. Suddenly, Chien senses a strange aura, and realizes that monsters are currently fighting each other. Nari mentions seeing a chick monster earlier, and judging by the strange aura Shin senses right now, the chick monster is being attacked. Kyan is not moved, but he notices that Nari is clearly uncomfortable. Surprisingly, Nari wants them to save the monster. She is having a tough time expressing it because of the commands forced upon her. She basically has zero free will left, but Kaon decides he's going to help her out. He tells Nari the chick might actually survive if they help it. This sudden suggestion sends Nari sprinting toward the monsters ganging up on that poor, helpless little bird. Nari hits the monsters furiously, screaming for them to stop bullying the chick. Check her backstory. It turns out her fellow test subjects bullied her simply because she was diligent and followed every order. They gang up on her and beat her badly, which is why she hates bullies. Fueled by that lingering anger, she beats up all of the monsters without mercy. Cheon is tending to the Mandrayoras when Nari returns carrying the little white chick. But the little bird is unconscious. Cheon is about to give advice when he suddenly realizes that chick is incredibly familiar. Nari bursts into tears, begging Shin to save the bird, so Shein offers to help. He places his hand on the chick and transfers his mana into its tiny body. While he's at it, Shin quickly realizes this tiny chick is actually that same immortal monster he harvested before. But he's totally stumped. Why on earth did such a massive beast shrink down this much? He figures its healing process is just different, once he finishes pumping it full of mana. Nari asks if the little monster is facing some kind of serious threat. Shin just tells her it's basically starving and totally malnourished. Being so tiny made it starve, but he assures the girl it'll recover soon since he just gave it a mana boost right now. Surprisingly, Nari is way too scared to leave the poor chick alone. So she starts begging Shin, asking if she can keep and raise it. She promises to train the monster well and handle all the feeding. Shin warns her this thing might grow into a giant beast, but she doesn't care one bit. She promises him she'll only give it tiny portions to keep it small. Shin isn't in the mood for another long argument, so he finally agrees to let her keep it. He thinks it might actually be useful as a guard dog if they leave it in the yard. Suddenly, the bird monster wakes up. The second its eyes open, it recognizes Shin immediately. While Nari is cheering because her new pet is finally awake. The monster, however, is staring cautiously at the terrifying guy standing right in front of it. It's also pretty disgusted that it's being manhandled and tossed around by some random little girl. It wonders how a kid like her even ended up in the middle of the demon realm. While Nari just hears cute cooing sounds, Shin hears the bird monster literally screaming for its life. Shin is absolutely shocked when he realizes he can actually understand exactly what the bird is saying. Nari's so hyped about her new pet that she wastes no time giving it a bath. And of course, she's already picked out the perfect name for it. She goes with the name Goo, simply because the bird keeps making cooing sounds like a pigeon. The monster bird is in total disbelief that they're giving it such a trashy, low-tier name. Goo jumps up and starts screaming his head off at Nari. This just makes the girl think Goo is crying because he wants even more water. Without hesitation, she splashes the poor bird with even more water. But this just makes things worse for Goo. He collapses on the table, begging her to stop splashing him. Since Nari can't understand him, Shin finally steps in and tells Nari to ease up on all the water splashing. Nari decides that Goo must be hungry instead, so she heads out to find some food. Later on, Shin realizes he's going to need some storage space. He lays out several logs so he can cut them into the exact sizes he needs. But the wood just shatters with the slightest touch, leaving Shin totally baffled by what's happening. He's sure he followed every single instruction he knew, but it's just not working. That's when Goo speaks up and tells him he's getting everything completely wrong. Goo points out that trees have different textures, and the one Shin's cutting is just soft wood. He's shocked to learn that trees have different levels of hardness. Goo honestly can't believe how stupid this guy is for not knowing something so basic. Shin asks which color means the wood is hardest, and Goo reveals that red wood is the strongest. Suddenly, it hits the little chick. Shin can actually understand every word he's saying. To confirm it, he tries to build a telepathic bridge to get inside Shin's head. But Shin blocks it the very instant he notices it happening. Goo asks how he's able to understand him, and Shin explains that he's basically feeling actual human words just popping up inside his mind. Shin, however, finds it way stranger that this monster can actually understand human speech. Goo seems a bit hesitant to explain how that is even possible. But Kyan realizes he is looking at a rare high-intelligence monster, a 1-in-a-million birth. He had heard the legends, but this is his first time seeing one with his own eyes. Kyan mentions they have actually met before, and the creature does not even try to deny it. Truth is, Goo was waiting for this reunion since Kyan saved its life by stripping away that poison-infested hide. It swore that whenever they finally met again, it would pay him back by helping him, even just once. Shin finally gets it. That immortality core only survived because he purged the poison from Goo years ago. Since the offer is on the table, Shin asks if it is ready to help right now, and Goo agrees. The creature tells Shin to follow its lead toward the place where the red trees grow. They are just about to head out when Nari suddenly bursts in, with a hunter right behind her. Fire attacks fly everywhere, leaving Nari completely frozen in fear. The hunter is not exactly thrilled about having to hunt down a little girl. But here is the thing, you and I know his job is on the line. His entire career is finished if he does not bring back that mechanical chimera. He finally corners Nari, who has collapsed on the ground, crying her eyes out. He launches a massive wave of fire to finish it, but Shin steps in and blocks it. Shin looks beyond furious with Gu perched on his shoulder, radiating pure main character energy as they arrive. Gu promises to show him the trees, but first, they have to save Nari. Realizing Nari is paralyzed by her trauma of fire, Kyan decides his first move is to extinguish the flames. Gu is absolutely disgusted, seeing this hunter bully a literal child. Meanwhile, the hunter is fuming that some random guy is getting in the way of his mission. Kyan basically tells the guy to zip it because he is tired of all the yapping. That really sets the hunter off, and he unleashes even more firepower from his body. But Kyan has a simpler way to win. He blasts the hill behind the guy, sending a massive landslide crashing directly onto the hunter. The hunter realizes his mistake too late. And before he can even move, he is buried under a mountain of heavy sand. Cheyenne turns to Nari and reassures her that she has nothing to be afraid of anymore. He tells her that if something scares her, the best solution is to just knock it out. Now, let us check on our hunter. He grabs the guy by the head and tries to yank him out, but then, surprise. The guy's hair just pops right off. Shin is shocked at first, but seeing that shiny bald head, he is absolutely losing it. Everyone is stunned because the hunter actually has a really youthful face. But he is already completely bald, which explains why he was hiding his secret behind that wig. Nari completely forgets she was just crying and starts laughing her head off at Mr. Baldy. Kyan stays focused and analyzes the power levels, and looking at Nari's true potential versus this guy. There is no way she should be losing to someone like him. He needs to know what is really happening here. So he uses telepathy to dive straight into the girl's hidden memories. He feels her lingering fear of the mad scientist who experimented on her and gives her a gentle pat for being so brave. Kyan knows that trauma like this will not vanish overnight, but it will heal as time goes on. Now Cheyenne is stuck, wondering what to do with this bald hunter. With a massive grin, Nari has got a plan. Suddenly, the hunter wakes up only to find himself dangling directly over a massive waterfall. They have tied him to a heavy stone using a very thick, sturdy rope. Looking down, the hunter immediately starts rethinking every single life choice he has made. Nari stands nearby, laughing her head off while Cheyenne tries to stop her from mocking the guy's looks. Cheyenne grabs a pot and scoops up river water, announcing it is time for ramen. Nari totally loses it. To her, Cheyenne's fish ramen is truly the greatest meal in the entire world. Cheyenne teases if the coconut tribe even eats ramen, and she cheers a loud yes. Meanwhile, our captive hunter tries to assess the situation, just looking at Cheyenne's aura and vibe. He guesses this guy must be at least a rank. But he could be even stronger. He has heard reports of legendary, high-level hunters who possess insane power but choose to operate strictly from the deep shadows. While Cheyenne preps the water, Nari is on a roll, snatching up fish left and right. Cheyenne tells her they only need a single fish, so she can release the rest. Nari happily agrees, and Cheyenne tells her to toss the prize catch into the pot. The hunter is absolutely horrified by what he is seeing. He cannot believe the massive, insane amount of water they are using for just 3 packs of ramen. This is a total culinary disaster in the making. The hunter cannot stand this absolute ramen abomination. Are about to commit, he screams at them to let him down so he can cook it properly. Cheyenne agrees and cuts him loose. If he wants to be the chef, he is more than welcome to try. The hunter feels the immense pressure from the pair. One wrong move and he is basically dead meat. Time to focus up. With sweat pouring down his face, he decides to stick to the gold, standard ramen techniques he has mastered over the years. He ignores the measurements, letting his sixth sense dictate exactly how much water the pot needs. Cooking 3 packs at once, he adds the seasoning and noodles the moment the water boils. He calculates that he needs exactly 4 minutes and a few seconds for the perfect texture. To hit that perfect window, he starts counting every single heartbeat as a timer. At 200 beats, he unleashes every high-level noodle technique in his arsenal. This is war. He wishes he had some kimchi, but in the demon realm, you take what you can get. Still, he gave it his all. No regrets, regardless of what happens to him next. Once the steam clears, he calls the group over to see if they are ready to eat. They stare at the bowl. Nari immediately notices these noodles look way better than the ones Cheyenne just made. Cheyenne and the others decide to give it a taste. And the very second that first bite hits their tongues, they are sent straight to flavor heaven. This ramen is absolutely, mind-blowingly delicious. Nari literally jumps for joy, screaming about how incredible these noodles actually taste. Even Gu is stunned, wondering if humans really get to eat food this good every single day. Cheyenne is genuinely shocked by the quality, but he tells everyone to just focus on finishing. They polish off every drop, secretly wishing there was a second pot of that godly ramen. The hunter nervously asks for their feedback, but Cheyenne just looks him in the eye and asks what he wants. The hunter is left completely confused by that question. Shin admits that ramen this good is way too tasty to just eat for free. He tells the hunter to name his price. If it is within his power, he promises to grant it. Hearing those words, Namkes is overjoyed and immediately drops face first onto the ground. He begs Cheon to teach him the secret to becoming just as powerful as he is. Shin is stunned by this. He asks Kishio why he would want a teacher who is not even his master. Kiss confesses that Shin is, without a doubt, the strongest hunter he has ever encountered. He notes that Kayan has clearly made himself at home, right here in the demon realm, which explains why he built a whole house here. Kiziok starts listing his perks, and the biggest selling point, the man can actually cook. He is even willing to be a delivery man, bringing supplies straight from the human realm. He is desperate to train under Shin, just to finally earn that higher hunter rank. Kayan gets serious, asking Kissy if he only attacked Nari for the bounty money. The hunter is stunned the mechanical creature has a name, so Kayan whispers in his ear, telling him to just play along. Apparently, Nari is from the coconut tribe. Kisiuk then clarifies. He admits he went after Nari for personal reasons that are way too awkward to talk about. But he promises Kayan it definitely had nothing to do with any bounty reward. All he cares about is passing that hunter promotion test. Nothing else matters to him anymore. After listening to his desperate plea, Kayan decides to help out, mostly because that meal was actually pretty delicious. For their first lesson, he suggests they jump straight into a sparring match. Kisok is excited, but Nari suddenly cuts in. She wants to be the one to fight him. Shin looks at her, asking if she is really confident about taking him on. She reminds him of his own words, that scary things should just be knocked unconscious. Locked and loaded with determination, she is ready to extinguish Kissio's fire once and for all. Shin points toward a massive black rock and asks Kissio if he can smash it. That is no ordinary rock. It is black ironstone, said to be many times tougher than diamond. Kisok is frozen by the task, and while he is busy stuttering through excuses, Nari just shatters the thing instantly, demanding they get on with their spar right now. Now check this out. We dive into Kishak's past, a natural-born hunter who was once considered a total prodigy. He awakened his powers at just 8 years old. That is remarkably early, considering most people do not awaken until 10 or later. Thanks to his insane work ethic, he surged through the ranks, hitting B rank plus before he even turned 20. Life was going perfectly until the unthinkable happened. His hair started falling out. By his early 20s, the top of his head was thinning fast, and by his mid-20s, he was rocking a full-blown, receding M-shaped hairline. Kizio began hitting up every pharmacy he could find, desperate for any kind of solution. But the pharmacist told him to just give up. Even a transplant would eventually fail and fall out. He used to be a talented, handsome guy, but the balding completely killed his confidence. Because of all that stress, his growth as a hunter completely flatlined until the day he discovered a research program hosted by Dr. Han Mongdu from the Hanbit Research Institute. The doctor explained how he had accidentally spilled a rare liquid all over his own head, and miraculously, his hair grew back like crazy. Get this, he is almost 90 years old, yet he has a full head of hair. This piqued Kishak's interest, finally dragging him off his rotting couch. When Mongdu is questioned about that leftover liquid metal, He plans to build a mechanical life form and challenge for the grand prize. Kyo absolutely loses his mind. The doctor has no plan for a hair loss cure. That is what humanity actually needs. Fast forward a few days. Kyo reads the news that mechanical research project has escaped into the demon realm. Since there are no laws out there, Kishio snaps out of his funk and decides to hunt it down for himself. His goal, pour every drop of that metal right onto his scalp. But here in the demon realm, sparring with Nari is a total disaster. He is getting absolutely wrecked. Kishio cannot believe Nari is this much stronger than him since he hasn't landed a single hit. Kyan is visibly disappointed, and he lets Kisak know it. But Kisak is no quitter. He promises his master he is going to step up his game. Moments later, Shin finishes the storage cabinet using that red wood tip he got from Gu. Even Gu is impressed. This cabinet is definitely built to last for a long time. While everyone is busy, Kisak is training like a man possessed. Getting beat by Nari is brutal, but he feels no sense of embarrassment. Actually, he feels completely free. Probably because he finally took off that wig of his. Gu is genuinely impressed with Kisiak's control over his flames. But he's annoyed he is losing to Kid. Shin clarifies that Nari is no ordinary kid. Refusing to back down, he demands another round with Nari. This time, he goes after her with a blade forged from pure fire. He actually lands a hit, but she liquefies her body, leaving him in shock. He is left stunned and completely vulnerable to her counter. Nari shifts back to her human form and kicks him so hard that he crashes into the hill, leaving a massive, noticeable crack. She confidently mentions she is no longer scared of fire, and it is all thanks to Shin. Lying there in pure shame, Cheyenne wonders if he has hit his limit as a B-rank hunter with no skills left to boast of. But Kisak has that admirable trait of never giving up. He scrambles back up, an excited look finally returning to his face. He asks Nari for another session, but then he notices his nose is bleeding. And Kaon asks him how many days he has spent in the demon realm. Kisiak replies that it has been 9 days, and Shin looks concerned. He needs to return to the human realm now. At his current rank, staying longer is a death sentence. Kisak agrees, even though he is desperate to stay longer. Kayan sees a rank potential in him and urges him to keep working hard. Kisak is floored. He has lost all hope after failing the A-rank exam for 6 straight years. Apparently, they say if you cannot pass in 3 years, you are nothing but a lost cause. Honestly, failing 6 times in a row, that is practically unheard of. Shin encourages him, though saying he has got potential because his mana hole isn't fully formed yet. He warns Kisiak to stay sharp and purify that demonic energy the moment he gets back. Kisiak thanks him for the guidance, swearing he will give it his absolute best this time around. Soon, as he prepares to leave, he notices the ramen stash is totally empty and asks Shin if he needs any more supplies. Shin just wants more ramen, nothing else, while Nari makes sure to wish him a safe journey. Kisiak tells Nari to keep up with her training while vowing that he is definitely going to be the one winning their next big sparring match. Right before leaving, Kisiak asks about his missing wig, but Shin claims he hasn't seen it anywhere. With everything settled, he finally sets off on his way. Once he is gone, Gu brings up a serious point. Isn't there a risk Kisiak might actually betray them? Shin flips the question, asking Gu what his mind-reading abilities tell him about the guy's true intentions. It's clear to Shin that Kisiak is dead serious about his journey to gain more power. Plus, Shin actually respects the fact that the guy is so incredibly sincere about everything. Nari suddenly pipes up, asking if Shin can actually understand Gu, and he confirms he can. Shin leads Nari back inside to show off the brand new cabinet he just finished building. He is pretty proud of his work, but Nari can't help noticing that the house is feeling a bit dim. Shin agrees and figures that adding a window is the perfect way to brighten the place up. With a quick use of his skills, he carves out some windows, making Nari absolutely thrilled. Since Nari loves it when things are bright and sunny. Shin mentions they will definitely need some proper light sources for when the sun goes down later. He tells them about something called a glowstone, a rare mineral that naturally lights up the dark. Just a few of those would brighten things up perfectly. Gu asks if he even knows where to find them, and Shin confirms. Apparently, they are located deep within the volcanic region, a place that most hunters consider to be one of the absolute deadliest zones. That is when Gu mentions that this dangerous place is actually his old hometown. But as he says it, he looks completely heartbroken. Shin is surprised by the reaction. I mean, usually going back home is supposed to be a happy occasion, right? Nari asks for a translation, and Shin simply tells her that Gu seems really upset about something. Since Gu is clearly worried about the volcano, Shin decides he will just head out there on his own. That way, the other two can just stay behind at the house. But Nari refuses. She is going with him. She claims she has finally overcome her deep fear of fire. Shin is actually impressed. She managed to conquer her trauma so quickly. He turns to Gu and asks if he is interested in joining them too. Reluctantly, he says yes. It sounds like he has got some serious, unfinished business waiting for him back home. Since they are all in agreement, Shin reveals he is going to craft some special equipment for Gu to use there. Meanwhile, over at the Mandriora plantation, the group there is busy messing around with that wig they stole from Kisiuk. Now, most people avoid the volcanic region because the ash alone is sharp enough to tear your skin apart. Between the lethal demonic energy and the poisonous gas, even taking a single breath, there can be a death sentence. That is exactly why this place remains almost a complete mystery to the rest of the human world. But as soon as the team arrives, Nari is already messing around with fire. Literally. Folks, the girl is acting totally bizarre, but that's just because she is actually a mechanical life form. But he is way more curious about what Xian actually is. Shin simply replies that he is a Chimera hunter. This catches Gu off guard, since he knows that Chimera hunters usually do not look this human. Shin explains he was always like that, but his form shifted the moment he finally regenerated. Kaeon turns to Gu. He asks if he is fine hanging around them, since a monster might feel awkward near a hunter. Gu assures Shin there is nothing to fear, since he just enjoys having someone to talk to. While they keep talking, Nari shows up to complain about the fact that she can't hear Gu, unlike Shin. Kaeon tells Nari that all Gu wanted to know was his origin. Nari claims she is a native, but Gu definitely knows better than that. They push forward through the scorching, volcanic terrain. Shin notes they should be able to find those luminous stones right near the active lava sprouts. They finally reach the peak and spot the glowing stones right ahead of them. Suddenly, they notice a male fire toad in the distance that looks like it is crying. A dead female toad lies before it. That is the tragic reason for all those tears. She was carrying their eggs when she passed away. Gu points out only the females can transport the eggs, since she is already dead. There is a very high chance the eggs will die too. Plus, the heat inside this crater is way too intense for them to survive. Nari feels terrible for the toad, so Shin decides to take action. Shin leaps toward it, even as Guy screams a warning that the toad is clearly agitated. Right on cue, the toad blasts Kaeon with its fire breath. But Shin blocks the massive attack with one finger. Before it can react, Qian has reached the beast and taps its head with one finger. Turns out, that simple tap delivered a potent dose of paralytic poison. The toad is paralyzed, but Kaeon knows it will wake up soon since he only used a tiny bit of poison. On top of that, fire toads are naturally resistant to toxins. From the summit, Nari screams out to see if he is okay. Kaeon yells back he is fine. He actually has fire toad cells in his system. He admits they cannot help the dead one. But he is convinced they can still save the one that is alive. Shin gathers the eggs, placing them on the male's back and tying them down so they stay put. The male toad is totally stunned when he wakes up to find himself carrying the precious eggs. He says a final goodbye to his partner before making a massive leap away. Before his final jump out of the area, the fire toad looks back at Nari. She is sure it was trying to say thank you. With the toad drama over, Kaon tells Nari to come down for the stones. She excitedly grabs them from the pit. Kaon warns her to watch it, or she will crush her foot if she drops one. Nari just giggles, claiming these stones are nothing for her strength. Gu, however, is really struggling with the weight, blaming his tiny little body for the trouble. Kaon tells him to go handle his business while he carries the heavy stones. Kaon thinks Gu brought gifts for friends, but Gu snaps back that monsters do not have friends. Truth is, he isn't even planning to show his face. He just wants to drop the gifts and vanish. Kaon is genuinely impressed that Gu actually misses his kin. It shows just how intelligent this monster really is. But Gu, he is in total denial about his feelings. Still, he clearly regrets leaving without a proper goodbye back then. Chan eventually asks Gu the big question, why leave the pack? Gu admits that awakening his high intelligence was a double-edged sword. There were perks, but massive downsides too. See, Gu believes he never would have felt this soul-crushing emptiness if he had never learned the language. Feeling superior made him lonely. He just couldn't relate to anyone anymore. And that is exactly why he left them behind. Believe it or not, his pack doesn't even know he's gone. But he doesn't blame them, they don't really understand kinship anyway. While they're busy mining the stones, though, Nari suddenly spots a strange-looking egg. It's clearly a monster egg, but she has absolutely no clue what kind it is. However, the shell cracked slightly when Gu stumbled earlier and dropped the heavy stone he was carrying. Kaon is worried that the hatchling might have a serious problem, because it actually needs to break out of the egg on its own to grow strong. Nari is super concerned. She suggests taking it with them before the heat literally cooks it alive. Gu is totally against it. Who knows what kind of monster might pop out of there? Shin, meanwhile, is already cooking up the perfect solution in his head. He knows a place that he believes would be a perfect nest for the egg, plus he's really curious about what's hiding inside. After thinking it over, Chan decides they are definitely bringing the egg back home. Gu stays firm, though. They should leave it. He's never seen an egg this weird in his life. So Chan decides to play the guilt trip card on him. He asks Gu why he even dropped the stone and cracked the egg first. Gu takes the blame, but warns Chan that Nari might get hurt because of this reckless decision. Chan just tells Gu not to worry. As long as he's around, they'll be fine. Gu thinks about it for a second and finally agrees to bring the egg along. Now that the egg mystery is settled, Kaon suggests they get back to mining those glow stones. A bit later, the group arrives back home to find that Kisio has returned. Kaon is actually surprised the guy came back so early. Kisiok offers to help carry Kaon's bags. Kaon shrugs and hands them over since the dude claims to be strong. Kissy grabs the bag, but he drops it instantly, like he was just handed the hammer of Thor. That's when Shin notices Kisok's face is absolutely covered in nasty-looking bruises. He immediately asks the guy what on earth happened to him. Back in the volcanic region, Gu's secret gift to his people was those packs of ramen. Kaon realizes Kisok must have been beaten up by someone out there. It's a total shock, because Kisio really doesn't seem like the type of guy to get bullied. Kisio tries to save face, claiming it was just Nari who usually beats him up. But Shin can't believe the guy is actually acting proud of that fact. To dodge any more questions, Kisio bolts toward the kitchen to start preparing their dinner. Later on, Nari finds Kaon messing with the stones and asks what he's up to. Kaon explains that he's building a lamp by carefully cutting and shaping the glow stones. He tells Nari that he's going to hang these glow stones all over the ceiling, promising her the final result will look amazing. Nari is totally impressed, calling Shin a genius who explains everything so clearly. Not just that. She sees a lot of her own father in his kind, gentle soul. Shin takes full advantage of the mood, jokingly asking if she means that dad from the coconut tribe. Nari just laughs it off and plays along with him. Suddenly, Gu starts a brawl with the Mandrioras, convinced they are trespassing on his sacred turf. Later, Kisak wraps up his latest culinary masterpiece, some delicious tofu pockets. He sets the plate down and tells everyone to go for it. Shin is definitely interested in the snack, but first, he demands the real story behind Kisak's messed up face. Kisak explains he headed to the Hunter Association to sign up for the promotion exam. But some rank jerks cornered him, mocking him for failing 7 years in a row. Naturally, that turned into a fistfight. Before the story even wraps up, the greedy group has already inhaled the food and wants seconds. Kisak admits those hunters told him to quit because he is nothing but a massive loser. They just kept mocking his hair until he finally lost his cool and fell right into their trap. Shin gets blunt, asking if he is naturally bald or just shaved it all off. Turns out, his hair loss is a total medical mystery that nobody can seem to solve. Shin asks about the next exam, and Kisak reveals it is exactly 90 days away. With the clock ticking, Shin decides it's time for some serious, high-intensity special training. Kisak is fired up for it. He promises Shin that he will do absolutely anything it takes to succeed. Shin completely shocks him by announcing the first mission is taking over Nari's mountain of dirty dishes. Kisak is still sobbing over the sink when Shin adds that he also needs to scrub every single glowstone clean of volcanic ash. Kisak is absolutely floored, reminding Shin that he promised actual training, not just menial janitor work. Shin coldly tells him he is free to ignore the training if he simply wants to live like trash forever. Shin then looks at Nari, suggesting they head out to fish a bit to help settle their stomachs. Nari is totally hyped for some fishing, while Kisak starts to suspect Shin must have a very deep motive for the dishes. No more whining. Kisak dives into the sink because he worked too hard for his B rank to quit now. He doesn't miss a beat, immediately hyping himself up about his own amazing hidden potential. He rushes after Nari and Shin, catching up with them down by the riverbank. As Nari and Shin focus on the fish, Kisak is stuck washing things, but the local river life is making it a nightmare. It seems his specific power type makes dealing with aquatic creatures nearly impossible for him. Shin is just disappointed, reminding Kisak that even his specific mana has its own unique uses. He orders him to cast a mana shield, but Kisak admits he has tried 1,000,000 times and it has never worked. Hearing that, Shin snatches a glowstone and tells Kisak to just hold it tight. Kisak is totally confused by the random request, but the stone immediately slips and falls right off his arm without resistance. He finally realizes the stone is made of pure demonic energy, making it impossible for him to actually grip it with his power. Shin confirms he is right. See, some glowstones hold condensed demonic energy, basically raw, unrefined power. Kyan breaks it all down. He needs refined mana to flush it out before his real power can actually wake up. He tells Kisak that his body is actually overflowing with massive amounts of mana. But he has zero control. Kyan taps a pressure point on his chest, asking if he feels a path opening. Exactly like he promised, Kisak feels a sudden surge of mana rushing through him. Kyan tells him not to stop, just follow the path that was just opened. Now, he has to focus that energy while attempting to lift the heavy glowstone. He follows orders, and after a bit of a struggle, the stone finally starts to rise. Kisak is blown away. Washing dishes and stones was actually a secret training method all along. Since the kid is enjoying it, Kyan tells him to keep channeling that mana while he finishes up the chores. Totally hyped by the progress, Kisak promises to do whatever it takes, no matter what Kyan asks of him. Kyan is low-key impressed by his grit, knowing deep down that the boy actually has what it takes. Later that night, Kyan hangs the glowing stone from the ceiling to act as a lamp. While the whole house sleeps, Gu is wide awake with the egg since he napped all day and is now completely full of energy. Suddenly, he watches Nari rise like a zombie and start wandering right out the front door. Turns out, she just wants to wash her dirty clothes in the middle of the night. Gu watches from afar, totally confused why she is doing laundry at this crazy hour. He figures she has to do it since she is literally out of clean clothes. Shortly, Nari steps out of the water, looking thrilled that her clothes are finally clean again. She is cheering for herself when Kyan walks up, pretending he just needed some fresh air. When she asks what he is doing, he just says he is out walking with Gu. He asks if she is on a stroll too, and she gives a nervous yes. Kyan tells her to hold still while he fastens a belt and a flower to her waist. Nari is obsessed with the new look, thinking she looks absolutely cool now. A weird noise echoes from the forest, sending a sudden chill through Nari. But Kyan calms her down, explaining it is just the sound of a simple grasshopper. They head back toward home. And Kyan asks if she needs anything else, like maybe some new clothes or shoes. But Nari tells him she is already happy with everything he has given her. Later, Kyan visits the human realm in a sharp outfit but zero shoes, intending to do some shopping for Nari. Everyone passing by stares at him like he has completely lost his mind. He cannot bring Nari into the human world just yet because she has a tracking device inside her and is also suffering from severe trauma. He never thought he would end up in the human realm just to buy kids' clothes. While he is looking for a shop, a strange kid suddenly approaches him. A scrappy kid approaches and promises to lead him to a clothing store for 10,000 won. Seeing that Kyan is obviously an outsider, the boy swears he can find the absolute best shop. Kyan is down to pay. But he warns the kid he has no small bills and will only pay once he gets some change. All right, you and I are starting with a kid who isn't impressed that a hunter has no cash. He just assumes Cheyenne is some green rookie who got scammed by a fake gate. Still, he tells Cheyenne to follow him since the guy looks like he has money for clothes. As they make their way through the busy slum streets, the kid introduces himself to our hero as Bongo. Cheyenne spots a police patrol car nearby and starts thinking this place might actually be safe. Bongo points out it is obvious Cheyenne is a new awakener since he has absolutely zero equipment. To Bongo, it is clear as day, Cheyenne must have been robbed by some high-level thugs. But he is a good kid and tells Cheyenne not to give up just yet. Cheyenne thinks the brat is surprisingly wise for his age. But Bongo snaps back that he is 17, hardly a little kid anymore. Suddenly, they spot thugs up ahead, and Bongo warns him to stay far away from this district. Apparently, the Space Gang used to stay in District 11, but they have expanded all the way into District 13. Bongo admits even the police have completely given up on that area. And that is when he drops the bombshell. They are currently standing right in District 12. This hits Cheyenne hard, as he worries if his old orphanage in District 13 is still there. Meanwhile, inside a local children's clothing store, the owner is already regretting her life choices and opening a shop in the slums. She is halfway through deciding to close up for good when Cheyenne walks through the door. After a hilarious back and forth between Bongo and the owner, he explains Cheyenne is there to buy. Park immediately grabs Bongo by the cheeks in a fit of rage. She tells him to stop bringing broke hunters to her shop since her tab is already full. One look at Cheyenne's dusty clothes, and Park has already written him off as a beggar. Actually, she was the one who told Bongo to bring in pitiful hunters because they remind her of her brother. But she admits she will eventually go bankrupt if she keeps playing the hero like this. While the two bicker like an old married couple, Cheyenne starts browsing the racks. Then Cheyenne suddenly cuts them off, telling them he is ready to buy while pulling out a 10 million won bill and saying it is all his cash. The second they see that much money, the vibe completely shifts. Park is all smiles while Bongo rushes over with snacks and drinks. Park kicks into high gear, trying to sell him every single piece of clothing in the store. Cheyenne tells the owner he needs new clothes for both himself and a young girl. Park is thrilled and practically dives into the back to pull out her very best stock. By the time they are finished, Cheyenne has literally cleared out the entire shop, leaving the owner wishing every day was like this. Once everything is bagged up, she offers to have the whole haul delivered to his place. But Cheyenne just brushes it off, saying he can carry the heavy bags himself. Cheyenne hands Bongo 100,000 won for his help and asks for one more favor as they step outside. Bongo stays quiet as he leads Cheyenne through the streets toward the inn he requested. He promises the place is safe because there is a police station nearby and the owner is kind. Hearing that is enough for Cheyenne, Cheyenne tells Bongo to wait outside for a bit while the kid stands there stunned by everything. Bong-soo senses something is fishy. Kyan just dropped 100,000 won and bought him new clothes. He suspects Kyan might be one of those creeps who lures kids into a trap for kidnapping. This leaves him with a massive choice. Should he make a run for it or stay? But then he pauses. What if Kyan is actually just a genuinely good guy? It is possible. Suddenly, Kyan comes back out, casually mentioning that the landlord really is as nice as Bong-soo said. Out of nowhere, he hands over a key. He knows Bong-soo has been struggling on the streets. Turns out, Kyan paid a full year of rent up front. He even covered the bill for future meals too. Kyan gives him one last command: make sure to eat proper meals every single day. Everything is sorted, so he tells Bong-soo that he is heading out. Just as he reaches the gate to return to the demon realm, something stops him. Bong-soo finally cracks and asks if there is a hidden motive. Why help someone you just met? He cannot believe Kyan would actually do all these amazing things for him. Kyan admits that helping him out just reminded him of his own past, long ago. He confesses that he was once in Bong-soo's shoes, even if it feels like forever. With that, he steps through to the demon realm, but the moment he gets back home, Nari is a total wreck. Her brother just vanished without saying a single word to her. He tells her he was just out getting some special gifts for her. He drops the bag in front of her. It is packed full of stylish human clothes. Nari is absolutely hyped over the new clothes. He tells her to hurry inside and try them on right now. Plot twist. He actually stole those clothes from Kisak for the trip, and he did not even bring him a souvenir. Later, Kyan starts folding the leftover clothes while Nari holds her own fashion show. He is just happy she loves the gifts. Honestly, she looks adorable in every outfit she tries. After testing a few, she finally picks her favorite. It is a shirt with a little chick on it. She says it looks just like Goo. Goo is totally insulted. How can she compare him to a boring chicken drawing on a shirt? Kyan lets her take over the folding duty, and she is more than happy to help him out. Goo points out the obvious. There is zero room in this house for all these new clothes. Kyan already has a plan. His solution: they will expand the house to build a walk-in closet and some built-in wardrobes. Goo worries they will need to cut down a lot of trees for this. But Kyan smirks. He knows the perfect person to handle the heavy lifting. Right then, he summons Kisak, announcing it is time for some more special training. Kisak is stoked. He even cleaned Kyan's old ragged clothes to use as his official training uniform. He mentions the clothes were soaked in poison, since he had no idea. He nearly died just by touching the fabric. Kisak is convinced Kyan left the poison there on purpose to help him grow even stronger. Little does he know, Kyan was just too lazy to wash it. Suddenly, Kyan tells him he is free to wear it. He plays it perfectly, telling Kisak it will make for the ultimate high-level training uniform. He tells him to gear up and go chop some wood. Goo steps in, eager to be the one who picks out the trees. Kyok is seriously panicking. He thinks this outfit alone might actually kill him before anything else does. And Cheyenne isn't helping, demanding he go chop wood while he's basically fighting for his life. Suddenly, Nari's voice rings out from inside the house. She's screaming that something is wrong with the egg. They all rush in. Cheyenne realizes it's finally hatching, explaining why the thing is thrashing around so violently. Kyok is terrified. He's convinced a disaster-grade monster is about to pop out and end them. But Nari isn't worried. She's betting on it being something totally cute and cuddly. They're still arguing when the shell cracks open. First thing they see, some seriously sharp, dangerous-looking claws. Everyone holds their breath, watching as the egg shatters to reveal the strange creature inside. But Nari and Kyok are just staring in confusion. They have never seen anything like this before. It has the long body of a snake, but it's standing on bird-like feet. The creature doesn't waste a second, lunging straight for Kyok's face. He nearly dies of pure fright right then. A bit later, Kyok starts hacking away at the trees, just like his master ordered him to do. Goo perches on his head to supervise. Meanwhile, as the wood chips fly, Kyok is struggling hard. That poison in the outfit is making every single swing a living nightmare. He cannot believe Cheyenne was just walking around in that death trap like it was nothing. Cheyenne, meanwhile, is just relaxing after doing laundry. That's when Nari walks up with the new creature in her arms. She tells Cheyenne that the little guy actually seems really obedient and sweet. Cheyenne figures the creature is already loyal to Nari. It probably knows she's the one who saved its life. Still, they still need a name. Cheyenne suggests calling it Sasa, since it's basically part snake. Nari is still thinking it over when Sasa suddenly hops down and bolts straight for the woods. Cheyenne is just glad to see them bonding. A happy family vibe is exactly what they need right now. He mentions to Gu that he's never seen a species like Sasa in all his travels. Gu agrees. If even he doesn't recognize it, they might have stumbled upon a truly rare species. However, Gu is certain about one thing. This monster definitely hails from the volcanic region. And because of that, they really need to keep a close eye on the Mandrioras. See, monsters from the volcano zones think of plant-type species as a total delicacy. They'll basically munch on any green thing they find, since plants are so rare back home. Plus, they have a real craving for plants packed with thick demonic energy. Gu is positive about this. That little monster is going to try and dig up the Mandrioras for a snack. Exactly like Gu predicted. The creature has already sneaked into the Mandriora field. A tense standoff begins right then and there. Nari wants to jump in and stop it, but Cheyenne tells her to wait. He thinks they're monsters at the end of the day. They need to scrap a bit to figure out where they stand. Since Sasa is just a baby. Cheyenne doesn't think the plants are in real danger. Suddenly, Sasa lunges for the smallest one, but the big guy blocks. The Mandriora instantly shifts into a defensive counter stance, and exactly as you'd expect. The second Mandriora launches a brutal counter-attack. But Sasa blocks it with his tail, almost like he's actually smiling. That's when the third one takes the chance to close in on Sasa's flank. In the end, the Mandrioras absolutely wreck Sasa, leaving the poor thing crying. Sasa ends up bolting away. Cheyenne just notes that the Mandrioras definitely won the first round of this war. With the show finally wrapped up, Cheyenne points out it is time to get back to their real work. 2 days later, Kisuk finally finishes the house expansion, and Kyo couldn't be happier to ditch that outfit as tears of joy stream down his face. He wonders if he actually did a good job. But Cheyenne pops up and praises him for actually exceeding every single expectation. Nari is totally impressed too. The whole place smells like flowers thanks to Gulu picking out that aromatic wood for the construction. Cheyenne is already sure that every outfit stored here is going to smell amazing. When Kisuk hears that Cheyenne already gave their new monster friend a name, which is Sasa, he suggests a supposedly better one. Cheyenne tells him to reveal his proposed name, and he ends up picking Snake Chick. Seriously, that is probably the dumbest name a human could ever imagine. Nari tries to help with her own suggestion, but it turns out to be pure trash, too. Gu wants in on the conversation, so Shin decides to ask for his real name since he mentioned having one before. Gu proudly reveals his true name is Rocky Mountain Hoof, basically his entire identity in 3 words. Cheyenne just sighs in pure disappointment. He is literally living with a bunch of dull brains. Since nobody else has a single good idea, the group just sticks with Sasa. Since they are officially done with the expansion, Gu asks Cheyenne what the next big plan is. Cheyenne reveals an idea he has been cooking up since his time in the human realm. He suggests building a massive, sturdy fence to keep monsters out, even when he is not around to defend the place. Kyok looks at the house and really doubts if any monster in their right mind would actually dare to approach a house this scary-looking. But Cheyenne warns them that an S-class monster or rogue hunters might still show up. If they want to keep people out, Gu says they need materials packed with dense demonic energy. To find that stuff, they are going to have to head down to the coastal area. Apparently, there is a special yellowish quartz there that is even tougher than blackstone. Shin is already imagining how beautiful this fence will look once they add some glowstones to it. While Nari and Gu are hyped for a beach trip, Kyoke is having a total nightmare about it. For him, this trip is a complete disaster. Kisuk is scared to death. But suddenly, he gets a nosebleed. That is the signal he needs to return to the human world immediately. Honestly, Kisuk could not be happier about the timing of this nosebleed. He quickly tells Shin he needs to head out to get some meds for demonic energy, and Shin agrees. He tells him to look after the mandragoras, just in case the group gets back late. Kisuk warns Shin to be extremely careful in that coastal region, as it is a nightmare for Arank hunters and below. The entire area is basically being ruled by two massive, disaster-class monsters. This is news to Kayan, and Kisuk explains that reports identify them as Chimera hunters who escaped a lab a long time ago. They have apparently got the heads of birds, but their bodies stay human. Meanwhile, some other hunters are actually moving in against these disaster-class beasts. They land a direct tracking hit, forcing the monsters to pivot in the opposite direction. The hunters think they are retreating and decide to give chase. However, one of them suggests waiting until the monsters reach their hideout before taking them both out. These hunters are shocked that even after 60 years, these monsters are still alive. All right, the hunters are convinced these chimeras have fully transformed into mindless beasts. These hunters refuse to let any beast ruin the legacy built by the chimera hunting elite. Suddenly, they realize the monster isn't retreating. It is charging directly toward them with lethal intent. Their leader shouts for the squad to throw up a defensive barrier immediately. But that shield is useless. The monster shatters their defense with one single, crushing blow. Panic sets in as the team finally realizes they completely underestimated this creature's raw power. The beast lunges forward again. It is about to deliver the killing blow when Nari drops in, punching the beast while telling it to pick on someone its own size. Sensing Nari is also a chimera, the monster leaps back, warily trying to gauge its new opponent. Nari calls out to Shin, joking that the monster is just bullying these hunters. But Shin sighs, thinking it is actually the other way around. Suddenly, the hunters pick up a signal that a mechanical chimera is lurking nearby. That is when Shin realizes the truth. Nari still has a tracking device hidden inside her. On top of that, Shin seems to recognize this bird-headed guy. Shin shouts over to him, reminding him they were once roommates, though he can't quite recall the man's tag number. While Shin talks with Birdhead, the hunters suggest it is best to retreat and return to the human world. They are already planning to return even stronger. The second Shin hears this, he knows these guys are going to be a massive pain. Without skipping a beat, he suggests he and Birdhead handle the situation. Stick with me. This gets interesting. It turns out the bird really was his old roommate, known as Number 33. Number 33 catches Shin's scent and recognizes it immediately. He realizes he is facing Number 17. It was 66 years ago, in a forest near the TDA laboratory. Number 33 was spotted carrying a little girl on his back while escaping the lab. Back then, that little girl went by the name Gia. Number 33 was desperately struggling to get them both to safety as they fled. They suddenly cross paths with Youngshin, who tells Number 33 that he knows his side effects are rapidly getting much worse. Shin warns that it will end badly if he does not return within 3 days, because the lab's detonation spell will trigger and kill him instantly. But then, Shin mentions that his sister, Gia, isn't scheduled for termination just yet. Shin suggests staying at the lab to get suppressants for his side effects, just to live a bit longer, even if it is only for 1 more day. Number 33 scoffs, telling Shin he'll never understand their pain since he doesn't suffer from side effects like everyone else. He sets his sister down, telling Shin that his only goal is to finally live a free life. To achieve that freedom, he is willing to fight Shin just to get him out of the way. Right then, Shin opens up a massive gate to the demon realm for him. This shocks Number 33, who never expected him to possess a rare gate stone. They both know there are only 2 possibilities if they step into that dark realm. Either their human cells are poisoned by demonic energy, or their monster cells absorb it and fully awaken. Shen, tells number 33 the demon realm is his best bet if he truly wants to live free until the very end. More importantly, the lab's deadly detonation spell won't activate once they cross over into the demon realm. Number 33 asks Khan if there is a way to survive the demon realm, and Khan tells him that he will need to build up enough mana to protect his human body and mind from the demonic energy. Khan admits that it won't be easy given his current abilities, and he is certain the future remains a mystery. Number 33 isn't sure why Kyan is helping them, but he is taking the help nonetheless. He is taking the aid regardless of the mystery. Before they cross into the demon realm, they have been roommates for 4 years, yet they still do not even know each other's names yet. This is the moment number 33 finally reveals that his real name is Yubem. Back in the present, Sheehan puts the hunters under mind control to wipe their memories clean. Once he realizes the hypnosis is working perfectly, he simply lets them go. Apparently, Kyan has oblivion herb cells transplanted into his body. This is what causes the hypnosis and memory loss. Yubem cannot believe how many things were injected into Kyan, just because he never showed side effects. Kyan lets the guy know that a lot has actually happened since the day he left. Nari then tugs on Shin's clothes to ask if he knows Yubem from somewhere. Since they are playing a game, Shin tells Nari that Yubem is from the Sparrow tribe, shocking Yubem. Kyan even teases Nari, asking her if the Sparrow tribe and Coconut tribe are allies. Nari immediately answers that they are indeed allies. While the two talk, Yubem remains totally and utterly confused. Just then, Nari bows her head to apologize to Chan, explaining she only attacked because she thought he was bad. Nari starts complaining about being hungry, so Shin asks Yubem if there is food at his house. Yubem is still processing the entire scene, unfolding right in his presence. He doesn't want to believe the fact that Shin is actually raising a daughter. Soon enough, Yubem takes the group back to his house. It is built like a massive bird's nest, and Kyan commends Yubem for building it so well. Yubem then brings out grilled clams that he prepared with a dash of demon butternut. Just looking at it makes your mouth water already. The moment Gu and Nari taste it, they find themselves in absolute food heaven. Even Shin admits that the food tastes really good. Especially that red moss seasoning Yubem added to it. Yubem takes pride in his cooking, calling the red moss a perfect all-purpose seasoning. Yubem is about to tell them to eat slowly when he hears Nari screaming for more. Yubem almost faints from a heart attack because he is completely out of ingredients. Since Nari enjoyed the food, she offers to catch more clams so Yubem can make it again. Yubem mentions that it might be a bit dangerous for her to go catch them. But Nari runs off. She promises to catch a massive haul because she wants to eat to her heart's content. While the kids are gone, the elders discuss what happened after his departure. Yubem is impressed to hear that Kyan actually came back to life, thanks to his immortality cells. Yubem then asks Kyan if he plans on getting back to the laboratory. Kyan confesses that he actually feels like it sometimes. But he thinks he already has a good life, so there is no need to rush. Kyan then asks Yubem if he plans on getting revenge too. Yubem notes that the spells in Kyan's body likely vanished when he revived, but not for the rest. As for those guys, the detonation spells are still ticking inside their bodies. Yubem knows they are basically walking bombs, set to explode the moment they return to the human world. Shin notices Yubem finally has control over his wings. But then he asks about his head. Has it ever actually changed back to its normal form? Yubem reveals that he can actually shift it back whenever he wants. But he stays like this on purpose. His sister's face changed too, and if he looked normal, she would only feel worse. Then, Shin drops a very heavy question on the table. Does Yubem realize he only has 1 single month left to live? Yubem does not even flinch. He has known the truth for a long time. He admits survival was a nightmare when he first arrived in the demon realm, barely scraping together mana to stay alive. But eventually, his mana and demonic energy found a perfect, steady balance. For a while, he actually knew what peace felt like. Until recently, when everything took a turn for the worse. Jia's mana hole got tangled up, and her demonic energy completely spiraled out of control. Yubum tried to force it open to save her, but he ended up shattering his own mana hole. He's been holding on, but she's been eating poisoned fruits just so she can stay in a deep sleep. Shin realizes the truth about Jia. She is forcing herself into a coma to stop that demonic energy from tearing her apart from the inside. That's when it hits Shin. A potion made from mandragora could actually fix a broken mana hole. He realizes Yubum has no idea this cure exists, which is why he has given up hope. Meanwhile, Jia is struggling just to survive in the dark cave where she is hiding out. Yubum is absolutely stunned. For the first time, he hears that they might actually live. Shin doesn't blame him for not knowing. He only knows because he has been studying pharmacology in a lab since 15. He explains that they need refined water from a mana hole, infused with the roots of a mandragora. Shen used to think those leftover roots were useless, but they're actually incredible. They soak up demonic energy, underground, and sprout into brand new, powerful entities. They are essentially a pure, raw source of life and vitality. Because of that, refined water from those roots can actually regenerate a destroyed mana hole. Shin never thought his hobby would come in this handy. Luckily for them, he has actually been raising mandragoras this whole time. Shin offers to go get the cure. Yubum can't believe it. Shin is willing to risk the human realm just for the water. Shin points out the obvious. Yubum is cursed and cannot leave, so Shin is the only one who can go. It has to be him, there's no other way. But first, he tells Yubum to look after Nari and Gu while he is away on this mission. Since the alchemist will definitely want to be paid for the work. Shin asks Yubum if he happens to have any cash. He's broke, but he's got a mountain of gear he's looted from fallen hunters over the years. Shin takes the stash, promising it's more than enough to cover the alchemist's fees. Shin heads back to the human world and links up with Bangu to find an alchemist. Bangu has actually made a name for himself as a guide. He mentions a new alchemy shop that just opened in the slums. He offers to lead the way, since that shop is their best bet for the refined water. Shin notices Bangu is wearing heavy sandbags on his limbs and asks what is up with that. Bangu says he's training his stamina. He wants to be just as strong as Shin one day. Kayan's surprised. Bangu admits he saw right through him. He already knows Kayan is a high-level hunter. Who else would dare to dive into the demon realm with nothing but their bare hands? Soon. All right, let's head to the alchemy shop together. Bangu says the new manager there is a total genius with incredible skill. Not just talented, but he's actually a decent guy too. Right on cue, they see the manager standing in the distance. He's dealing with a loan shark. This guy spent 20 years at the prestigious Gold City branch. But he got demoted, dumped in the slums, and they even slashed his pay to nothing. Kayan assumes the guy must have messed up big time to end up here. But Bangu sets the record straight with the real story. Turns out, a corrupt boss was pocketing funds meant for the poorest people. Alchemist Kim tried to blow the whistle on it. Instead of a reward, they labeled him a troublemaker and kicked him down to the slums. Suddenly, Kim spots Bangu nearby, and his miserable expression lights up immediately. Bangu introduces them, saying our main character needs an expert alchemist. Kayan uses his appraisal eye and realizes this guy is clearly the real deal. Once the introductions are over, Bangu heads out alone. He's got to get back to his own training grind. Inside the shop, the clerk is whining about money when Shiyin and the manager walk through the door. Without wasting a second, Shiyin gets straight to business. He asks if Kim can craft refined mana holes using mandragora, since he's in a rank pro. He specifically needs 2 liters of the stuff, and he needs it fast. Kim thinks it's a joke. Mandragora's in a dump like this? No way. Plus, he's dying to know how this kid already knew his hidden rank. He's ready to say no when Kayan pulls out tiny mandragora roots dripping with dense demonic energy, leaving Kim in a state of pure shock. Kim is floored. Those roots look like they were plucked 5 minutes ago. The quality is absolutely off the charts. To sweeten the deal, Kayan offers to pay with rare specialties from the coast. He hands over a heavy bag. Go ahead, appraise it. Inside, S-rank black pearls that would make a king jealous. Kim's jaw drops. Even the main headquarters hasn't seen quality like this. Along with the pearls, there's giant clams and even rare red moss. Kyan asks if this is enough to cover the fee, and honestly, you and I know it's more than enough. Honestly, those ingredients are worth enough to buy this entire building 10 times over. The clerk rushes off to grab the high-end appraisal gear needed for such incredibly high-value loot. Once they are finally alone, Kaeon spots a mandragora sitting in a tube, and he asks Kim why he lied about not having any. Kim explains that specific one has been dead for at least 10 years. Every single medicinal property in it has withered away long ago. He only kept it as a souvenir for his failed research. But then, Kyan claims the plant is still alive. He pumps it with mana, and to Kim's absolute shock, the mandragora actually begins to twitch. It's just in a coma. It ran out of demonic energy and simply shut down. Kim can't believe it. He can hardly believe his eyes, knowing how much mana he poured into that mandragora himself. Right then, Kim's arrogant boss, Director N, struts into the room. He starts mocking Kim immediately, laughing at how pathetic and trashy this office looks. A stunned Kim asks what a big shot is doing in the slums, and casually mentions he heard a report that something very valuable just arrived at this laboratory. Kim is shocked, instantly wondering if his own assistant already betrayed him and contacted Director N. The boss then gestures to his bodyguards, a pair of twins who are powerful ability users. He then faces Shin, introducing himself as Angie Jang, the Alchemy Association Director. He demands Shin join him in Gold City, promising to take care of his every need. And continues, making it clear he is ready to offer an exclusive contract that Kim could never possibly provide. Shin ignores the offer, asking about the ugly wart on his nose and his relation to the infamous Bokdio, and laughs, revealing that Bokdio is his grandfather, and asks if they finally understand the situation. Shin immediately sees that same disgusting family resemblance. It makes sense, since Bokdio was the monster who ran the experiments that turned him into a chimera. He was a pathetic scientist who viewed those children as mere tools, sporting that same distinctive wart on his nose. The second Shin confirms they are two of a kind. He unleashes a crushing aura that slams Director and right onto his knees. Shin sighs, disappointed that N is just as greedy and power-hungry as his disgusting grandfather was. N is completely lost, so Shin offers a simple question that will decide if he lives or dies. With pure rage burning in his eyes, Shin asks if the TDA laboratory still exists, and stammers, claiming he has absolutely no clue what the boy is talking about. This prompts Shin to ask again, demanding to know if he really does not recognize the Chimera Research Lab, where Bokdio served as the lead scientist. Hiding nearby, Kim is shocked to learn that a Peace Prize winner like Bokdio actually ran an illegal laboratory in secret. Still pinned down, N snaps back, telling Shin not to disrespect his family name, claiming his grandfather worked hard to teach at the university. He even donated his entire fortune to gate victims after retiring, which is how he earned that prestigious Peace Prize. Shin realizes the truth. Bokdio only repented publicly because he had killed so many innocent people in the shadows. Shin expected the man to still be alive despite not being awakened. But he died far too soon. He wonders aloud if it was an effect of falling out of a window. This leaves him terrified, since that incident was never made public. He is desperate for answers, and Shin reveals he was the one who pushed Bokdio because he turned kidnapped kids into chimeras. That monster threatened to throw children into a gate. So Shin struck first and sent the man flying out the window instead. Shin stares him down, deciding to give an exactly one chance. He orders N to return and investigate the TDA research lab thoroughly. Shin warns him that when the time is right, he will come looking for him. Shin is stunned to find the offspring of that monster here in the slums. He remembers those agonizing experiments at 9 years old, and how the monster parts finally started surfacing on his body in his 20s. Beyond that dark memory, everything else is just a complete blank. He finally realizes that before, he was just a puppet, following primal instincts without a single thought of his own. It hits him out of nowhere that the lab probably changed names since it has been such a long time. Moments later, Kim is back from the lab, carrying the refined water that the group desperately needs. Kyan is actually shocked. Even for an A-rank alchemist, this guy worked at lightning speed. Kim just shrugs it off, saying the ingredients were so perfect that the process was a total breeze. But then, Kyan makes a move, asking Kim if he would be open to signing a personal contract with him. On top of that, he promises to provide all the rare remaining ingredients. Kim's jaw drops. An exclusive deal and these expensive materials, it is like he just won the lottery. Tears start falling. He can't believe such a legendary offer is actually real. Kyan is totally thrown off, wondering if he accidentally offended the guy with a terrible bargain. Kim opens up, explaining he grew up in the slums where his parents were crushed by massive debt. He swore he would pay back every single cent. But no matter how hard he worked, he felt like he was just running in place. To him, Kyan's kindness is life-changing, and he is already worrying about how he could ever return the favor. Kyan is stunned. The man is already stressing about paying him back before they have even started. He tells Kim to relax. All he really wants is to keep this partnership going for the long haul. Kyan knows that having a master alchemist on his side will be crucial for his future plans. Business concluded, he decides it is finally time to head back home and check on the others. But he just hopes nothing went wrong while he was away. He was right. Jia completely lost control, going on a rampage and leaving Yubum absolutely battered. Even through the pain, Yubum refused to back down, determined to protect those kids no matter what. Finally, Yubum prepares to face his sister in a desperate clash, dashing toward her with everything he has. He manages to pin her to the ground. But suddenly, a mysterious shimmering barrier wraps around her. Yubum is confused until he realizes Kyan has arrived, using a special jellyfish restraint to safely hold her back. Everyone breathes a sigh of relief as Kyan appears. Yubum immediately asks if he successfully got the medicine. Kyan gives a nod, confirming that he has exactly what they need. He hands over the bottles, telling him to give one to Jia and save the other for himself. After taking the cure, Jia's rage fades. Later that night, she wakes up to find Nari sleeping peacefully nearby. She wonders if it is all a dream, until she spots Yubum and Kyan sitting quietly by the campfire. When Kyan turns to look at her, Jia nearly loses it, screaming at the top of her lungs. That scream wakes Nari up instantly, and she doesn't waste a second acting like Jia's best friend in the world. Yubum tells his sister to check her injury, and when she looks at her reflection, she is stunned. The wound is gone, and her face is back to its beautiful, normal self. Jia is absolutely floored, asking Yubum where on earth he found these incredible people staying with them. Yubum can't believe she doesn't recognize him, especially since she has been crying to see Kyan for ages. He realizes it has been so long that her memory of his face has probably just faded away. But after squinting a bit closer, suddenly it clicks. Kyan is actually number 17. She rushes to her brother to make sure she isn't hallucinating, and he confirms it is really him. Instead of a warm reunion, Kyan kills the vibe by asking if they have any red moss left. Yubum admits they are all out, but Jia isn't even shocked. This is classic Kyan, always the most detached guy with zero sense of emotional timing. Finally, she removes her mask, thanking Cheon for all the incredible things he has done for her. Suddenly, Nari spots something sparkling at sea. Jia explains that it is actually a sea fairy. They are basically deep-sea seahorses, but Jia and Yubum call them sea fairies because they look like tiny spirits whenever they play together. Apparently, these creatures only emerge at night and return home when the sun finally rises. Jia mentions that following these fairies leads them straight to a glowing yellow quartz. Right then, Shin realizes he has completely forgot about his original and main goal. Kyan asks when the sun will rise, and Gia confirms it will happen very soon. Since this is the case, Kyan decides that he needs to go for a swim. Meanwhile, back on the surface, scientists have tracked the mechanical chimera's last known location to a nearby coastal region. During a research meeting, Anne calls Mongdu to ask if he knows anything about the mysterious TDA lab. Mongdu claims he knows nothing, but Anne explains it was an illegal facility operating many years ago. Mongdu tells Anne that the Hanbit Research Lab isn't involved in the shady business she is currently investigating. He adds that Bokdio always taught him to be a righteous and honest researcher. Once the call ends, Mongdu wonders how Anne even found out about that illegal lab. Momentarily, an assistant enters with big news. They've successfully created a brand new liquid metal mandriora. Mongdu is thrilled. Mandrioras are incredible when it comes to sensing their own kind through kinship. He's relieved that he managed to save a little liquid metal behind. He's certain this metal mandriora will track Nari down and be able to find her in no time. He orders the bounty on Nari tripled and tells them to hire every A-class hunter available. He must find Nari at all costs. To him, she is his ultimate life's masterpiece. Back in the demon realm, Yubum gazes at the sea, remembering a conversation he once had with Kyan about the quartz. Shin actually wanted to use it for his house, which had completely caught Yubum off guard. Yubum realizes that Kyan has actually been enjoying his stay in the demon realm. Cheon then asks Yubum if he has any interest in visiting the human world. Yubum admits he isn't all that curious, but he would like to see how much things have changed. Kyan tells him he might actually be able to remove the curse from his body. Yubum is intrigued. Kyan mentions a highly skilled alchemist named Kim who could help them. Kyan wants Kim to research some spells, but he warns Yubum not to get his hopes up. Tearing up, Yubum asks why Kyan helps them when they have never given him anything in return. Kyan reveals that these siblings impress him, making him wonder if life holds something more important than survival. By helping Yubai and his sister, he believes he might finally find the answer he's seeking. Now, standing in front of the clear sea, his sister appears in the distance, tossing him a rope and shouting for him to pull. Not knowing what it is, Yubum starts pulling, only to realize that the object is actually incredibly heavy. Summoning every ounce of strength, he tugs hard and drags the massive weight out of the water. It's a massive haul of quartz. You and I can see Yubum is absolutely stunned. Shin cannot believe the massive haul he and his team just mined. Nari and Shin dive in, enjoying a swim while harvesting that precious quartz. Once they reach the Seafare's royal palace, its golden beauty leaves them speechless. Nari turns to Shin, already planning their next visit to this stunning location. Looking at the sheer volume of stones, Yubum wonders how they'll haul this haul home. Shin admits it's finally time to start brainstorming a logistical solution. Out of nowhere, a massive parrot-like bird appears soaring high above. Our protagonist wonders why this bird is flying solo when they usually travel in massive flocks. Nari is absolutely blown away by the parrot, claiming it looks incredibly pretty. But Gia warns her that she'll change her tune once she sees it up close. Gia explains these beasts are over 4 meters long and known for being extremely vicious. They are so dangerous that even experts like Gia and Yubum choose to avoid them. Still, Yubum can already see the gears turning in Shin's head. Shin confirms the crazy plan. He needed a truck, and a giant bird just volunteered. Meanwhile, back at the house, Kishuk is focused on expanding his internal mana reserves. Noticing his mana hole is finally growing, he is absolutely stunned by the progress he is making right now. Feeling like his dream of reaching a rank might finally be within his grasp. Just as he's celebrating, a metal mandriora suddenly creeps up behind him. He panics instantly at the sight of the bizarre creature. But things get worse when 3 intimidating a rank hunters step out from the shadows. Recognizing Kishuk by his bald head, the bullies immediately start mocking him without any mercy. Apparently, these were the same thugs who tormented him during his promotion exam in the past. As Kishuk panics, he notices 3 mandrioras in the garden are standing their ground, and they're doing it in the most stylish way possible. The hunter's eyes light up, realizing just how much gold these rare creatures are worth. One hunter steps forward, thinking he can easily trick the strange little creature. Kishuk is all ready to risk everything to protect them when the largest mandriora makes a move. The plant monster delivers a massive kick, sending the arrogant hunter flying into the horizon. Suddenly, Yubum and Gia arrive, showing up just in time to see the chaos. They pause, wondering who is causing trouble at Shin's place. It turns out they outpaced Shin because his new feathered transportation was flying incredibly slow, mostly because Shin beat it into submission while taming it. Kishuk is completely lost, trying to figure out what is happening all at once. He's trying to understand how disaster-class monsters just randomly appeared on his front porch. He is also terrified that something happened to Shin, since these two came from the same direction he went. Before he can spiral further, Yubum and Gia rush over to explain they are actually Shin's loyal companions. Kishuk is floored by the high-level powerhouses his master has been hanging out with. That is when he realizes he can actually point these 2 powerful warriors toward those annoying hunters. He quickly exposes the intruders, shouting that they are here to steal the precious mandrioras. The hunters overhear this and instantly freeze, realizing they are in very deep trouble. An hour later, Shin finally arrives, and the exhausted bird immediately passes out the moment it's unloaded. Shin sees how drained the bird is and gives it a gentle pat, telling it to get some well-deserved rest. All right, check this out. Gia is absolutely stunned that Kaon actually tamed the bird. But Yubum isn't all that surprised. He already knows exactly what kind of person Kaon is. Minutes later, Shin spots those orang hunters, all stripped and tied to a tree. He wants answers. Yubum explains they were trying to steal the precious mandrioras. Shin suspects a much darker motive, but meanwhile, Nari is just excited to have a guest. She is super happy and offers to give Gia a full tour around. Once they're gone, Yubum reveals that the Hunbit Research Institute is the lab hunting for Nari. They're the ones who hired those hunters. This confirms it. Nari has a tracker on her that's actually working, even deep in the demon realm. Still, Shin is genuinely confused. How did these hunters find the house when he and Nari were way out on the coast? Yubum reveals the secret. He holds up the metal mandrayora that the hunters brought with them. Yubum explains that these liquid metals are naturally drawn to one another. That's exactly how they've been able to track Nari. The mandrayora was pulled here by his own kind in the garden. Apparently, their next move was to head for the coast. It's clear they have no intention of giving up on Nari yet. Realizing just how serious this whole situation is, Shin knows we need a real game plan now. Suddenly, the garden mandrayoras approach. They want that metal mandrayora, even though it's already become a chimera. Shin hands it over, but the mandrayora boss keeps staring as if it's waiting for something else. That's when Shin realizes there's actually another mandrayora hiding in his pocket. He pulls it out. Yubum is left wondering where on earth Kaon found such a scrawny mandrayora. Shin explains that an alchemist was raising the little guy, but he's the one who agreed to look after it now. In no time at all, the other mandrayoras start digging a brand new hole for their latest family member. Yubum is actually impressed by the social standards of these mandrayoras. Kaon is just relieved there aren't any territorial fights breaking out among them. Soon, Kishuk, Nari, and Gia return to the house. As usual, Kishio rushes for a hug, but Shin just shoves him aside to avoid the trouble. Kishio announces that he's going to cook something incredible for their new guests. Kishio is running around until he suddenly locks eyes with that giant parrot. A massive wave of terror surges through his body. He demands to know what that massive bird is doing there, but Shin just promises to explain everything a bit later. While Kishio gets busy in the kitchen, Nari heads out to the garden. The liquid metal mandrayora makes a connection with her. Soon, Kishio finishes the meal, and it looks absolutely incredible enough to grab everyone's attention. Yubum and Gia are absolutely stunned as they realize just how many rare ingredients Kishio used for this feast. They're amazed. They can't believe how much detail and generosity went into every single part of this dish. They take the first bite. Kishio silently prays they enjoy it. Yubum and Jia take a bite and instantly enter a state of total food bliss. Shin's used to it. Kishio's cooking is legendary. Everyone is feasting but Nari. She is looking totally miserable. Moments later, she ditches her food and heads back into the house. She claims she's just tired, but Chan knows the Chimera Mandriora is still bothering her. Chan starts brainstorming ways to help, thinking some busy work might finally settle her mind. As soon as the group finally finishes their meal, a gate suddenly rips open, and when Shin turns back, he is shocked. It is Nari. She's actually trying to leave, thinking she's putting the whole team in serious danger. Kyan immediately rushes over to grab. We'll drag each image frame and we drag each image frame in to make the images run a drag drop into CapCut. And similarly with the audio file, we also drag like that all audio. I guarantee that all audio and images and videos are all created by me. So after I've dragged the audio and images, I will have a version like this. I will insert effects into each frame to create visual appeal for viewers finally. I will review the video one more time to see if there are any parts